Every single action we take, whether small or great, leaves a trace within us. Like drops of water falling on stone, they seem insignificant at first, but over time they shape and carve, they define. In the same way, the habits we choose, those seemingly ordinary rituals we repeat each day, are what ultimately shape our destiny. Success is not an accident, nor is it a sudden explosion of effort. It is a quiet accumulation. A rhythm, a discipline, a way of life. The masters of every field, whether in martial arts, business, or personal mastery, understand this truth, that excellence is not something you pursue occasionally. It is something you become through consistent repetition. But the question is not whether you have habits. The question is, are your habits serving your highest purpose? Are they aligned with the kind of person you aspire to be? If not, then every day you delay is another day you deepen the patterns that hold you back. This journey, like all great journeys, begins not with grand decisions, but with humble beginnings, one breath, one thought, one act. Let us talk today about how to build the kind of habits that do not just bring you success, but make you worthy of it. Building habits for success begins with understanding the nature of the mind. In the Shaolin tradition, we do not look at success as a destination to reach, but as a natural outcome of how a person lives every day. What you do once in a while, when motivated or inspired, does not define your path. It is what you do consistently, even when motivation fades, that reveals your true discipline. Many people believe that to succeed they must wait for the right moment, the right feeling, the right environment. But in the temple, we are taught the opposite. We are taught that the right moment is created through presence, the right feeling is cultivated through clarity, and the right environment is built through repeated effort. This is the beginning of habit, not waiting, but creating. Before any physical movement takes place, there is a thought. Before a habit becomes visible in action, it is first invisible in the mind. That is why, when we speak about building habits, we must start not with external routines, but with internal alignment. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? Not what others expect of you, not what the world praises, but what you, in your quietest moments, know to be your path. Clarity in vision is the foundation for any meaningful habit. Without this, you will always chase the habits of others, copy systems that do not fit your nature, and then wonder why you do not feel fulfilled. In the early hours of the day, when the temple is silent and the world is still, the monks begin their practice, not because someone forces them to, not because they are chasing reward, but because they understand something deeper, that the consistency of their practice is a reflection of their inner world. A disciplined mind expresses itself through a disciplined life. This is why habits must be built not for outcomes, but for identity. Do not run towards success. Instead, become the kind of person who success naturally finds. If you rise early, not to impress others, but because you value your time, that is a habit that reflects who you are. If you train your body daily, not to gain praise, but to cultivate strength and presence, that is a habit that builds your foundation. The difficulty most people face is not lack of knowledge. It is the misunderstanding of effort. They believe that effort must always be grand and intense, but true mastery comes not from intensity, but from consistency. 10 minutes of focus practice each day is more powerful than 2 hours of practice done once a week. The mind loves rhythm, the body responds to regularity, nature itself follows patterns, the sun does not rise late, the wind does not forget its direction, trees do not choose when to grow. Everything in nature operates through discipline. Why, then, should human beings try to succeed without it? Every habit you choose is a signal to the mind about what matters. If you choose laziness, your mind becomes comfortable with avoidance. If you choose distraction, your attention weakens. But if you choose presence, your mind sharpens. If you choose stillness, your awareness deepens. Habits are not just actions, they are declarations of value. They tell you and the world what you prioritize. Therefore, if you want to change your life, do not start by trying to change everything. Start by choosing one habit that aligns with the person you wish to become. Practice it without excuses until it becomes effortless. In the Shaolin way, there is a principle: start small, master fully, then expand slowly. This applies to habit. Begin with what is manageable. If you wish to become stronger, begin with one movement, repeated each day. If you wish to become wiser, begin with one idea, contemplated daily. The mistake people make is trying to do too much, too fast, without understanding that the seed must be planted and nurtured before it becomes a tree. Patience is not weakness. Patience is the power to persist without needing instant results. And this is what separates those who achieve from those who only wish. The achiever acts daily, no matter how small the step. The dreamer waits, hesitates, postpones, and then forgets. When you build a habit, you are teaching the body to move without resistance, and you are teaching the mind to focus without confusion. This is inner harmony. It is not about forcing yourself, but aligning yourself. When your values, your thoughts, and your actions are in unity, you do not need motivation. You have momentum. You do not fear discipline. You embrace it. And in that alignment, success becomes not something you pursue, but something you live. The reason many people fail to sustain habits is not because they lack strength or knowledge, but because they fail to respect the process. In our modern world, where everything is optimized for speed and convenience, we have come to expect transformation to be immediate. But nature does not operate on shortcuts. A seed does not become a tree in a day. A mountain is not formed in a moment, and the human spirit does not develop strength through brief bursts of effort. True change, lasting change, is slow, deliberate, and rooted in repetition. To build habits for success, one must first surrender the desire for immediate results and instead fall in love with the daily process. In the teachings of the temple, we are reminded again and again that the body learns through movement and the mind learns through stillness. Both require discipline, both require repetition. When a novice begins his training, he does not start with advanced techniques. He begins with the basics, and those basics are repeated every single day. Not until they are learned, but until they become part of who he is. This is the power of habit. It is not something you do, it is something you become. If you are consistent enough, your habits no longer feel like effort. They become your nature, but reaching that point requires a shift in how you relate to discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort, not realizing it is the doorway to growth. They seek comfort in the moment and trade it for discomfort in the future. But a warrior of the mind understands this truth, that short-term discomfort, when chosen consciously, leads to long-term strength. Waking up early is uncomfortable. Moving your body when you feel tired is uncomfortable. Focusing your attention when your mind wants to wander is uncomfortable. But each time you choose discomfort in service of your goal, you are strengthening your inner foundation, and soon what was once difficult becomes effortless. What was once a struggle becomes your second nature. There is a difference between pain and discipline. Pain is what life gives you when you resist growth. Discipline is what you give yourself when you choose growth. Building successful habits requires that you move beyond motivation. Motivation is useful, but it is unreliable. It comes and goes. It is easily shaken. Discipline, on the other hand, is rooted in decision. You decide what matters. You commit to it, not based on how you feel, but based on who you want to become. And every time you follow through on that commitment, you build trust with yourself. This trust is what makes your habits unshakable. In Shaolin training, there are no shortcuts. Every movement must be mastered with patience. Every breath must be coordinated with intention. The result of this discipline is not just physical strength, it is mental clarity. A mind that has learned to stay with the process without rushing or resisting is a mind that becomes unshakable in the face of challenge. This is what successful habits do. They create structure in a world full of chaos. They give you something reliable to return to, even when life becomes unpredictable, and it is in this reliability that confidence is born. Habits are the containers that hold your values. If you value growth, you will have habits that reflect that growth. If you value peace, your habits will make space for stillness. But if your actions contradict your values, then you will always feel divided. This internal conflict creates stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. To resolve this, your habits must not be random. They must be intentional, aligned, thoughtfully chosen to support the person you are becoming. And this alignment can only happen when you slow down and reflect. What are you doing each day? Why are you doing it? What is it building within you? The truth is, every habit you repeat is casting a vote for the type of person you wish to become. You are either voting for strength or for weakness, for clarity or for confusion, for courage or for fear. There is no neutral action, even the smallest choice, a breath taken with awareness, a moment of gratitude, a step taken with purpose. Each one matters. This is the path of mastery, not to chase success as an external goal, but to cultivate success from the inside out, by repeating the right actions in the right state of mind every single day. When you understand this, you stop chasing perfection. You begin to see that it is not about doing everything at once. It is about doing one thing consistently, with full attention, and then doing it again the next day. Success is not a product of massive action. It is the product of repeated, purposeful action. It is built slowly, quietly, through moments that most people overlook. The early morning ritual, the evening reflection, the decision to say no to distraction, the willingness to begin again even after you fail. All of these are building blocks. They are the invisible architecture of a successful life. The moment you decide to build habits for success, you are stepping into a lifelong relationship with yourself. This is not about following a rigid schedule or copying someone else's routine. It is about learning how your own mind operates and how your environment shapes your behavior. Every habit you form is both a reflection and a reinforcement of your mindset. If your mind is scattered, your habits will reflect that chaos. If your mind is focused, your habits will carry that clarity. In the Shaolin tradition, we are taught to observe our minds before we train our bodies. We are taught to understand where our thoughts go when we are under pressure, when we are tired, when we are uninspired. Because this is where the real habit building begins, not in action, but in awareness. Awareness is the first discipline. Without it, habits become mechanical and lifeless. With it, habits become tools of transformation. When you wake up in the morning and immediately reach for your phone, that is not just a habit. It is a pattern shaped by your environment and reinforced by unconscious repetition. But if you pause, if you take a breath and direct your mind inward, you have already changed the direction of your day. You have already begun the practice of intentional living. The purpose of building habits is not just to become more efficient or productive. The purpose is to build a life that reflects your values, to build a structure that protects what is important to you, and that structure must be built one conscious choice at a time. Discipline does not come from forcing yourself to do what you hate. Discipline comes from reminding yourself of why you started. It comes from returning again and again to your deeper purpose, especially when your surface level emotions try to distract you. On the days when it feels difficult, on the days when the mind creates excuses, that is when the real training happens. In those moments, you are not just repeating an action, you are reshaping your identity. Each repetition is a quiet declaration. This is who I am now. This is how I move through the world. This is how I face resistance. One of the great misunderstandings people have is believing that successful people always feel motivated. They do not. They have simply trained themselves to act despite the lack of motivation. They have built a system of habits that supports them when willpower fails. This system is not created by accident. It is designed, refined, and protected over time. Just like a garden, it must be watered daily, even when there are no visible results. And just like a garden, if neglected, it will not stay the same. It will deteriorate. This is the nature of life. Everything is either growing or decaying. Your habits are either bringing you closer to the life you desire or pulling you further away from it. In the monastery, we live by rhythm. We do not negotiate with our routines. The bell rings and we rise. We do not ask if we feel like training. We train. We do not ask if we are ready to meditate. We sit. This rhythm frees the mind from decision fatigue and allows it to focus on presence. The same principle applies outside the monastery. If you want to build habits that last, you must create a rhythm that removes unnecessary decisions. Prepare the space, set the time, know your purpose. Then act. The less you rely on feeling ready, the more consistent you become. What begins as discipline eventually becomes devotion. Not devotion to the habit itself, but to what it awakens within you. When you repeatedly align your actions with your values, you begin to experience inner harmony. You no longer feel torn between who you are and who you want to become. You begin to trust yourself, and this trust becomes your strength. It allows you to take bolder steps, to commit more deeply, to walk your path with quiet confidence. This is what successful habits cultivate, not just achievement, but alignment, not just progress, but peace. When you observe someone who has achieved lasting success, what you often see is not the result of one major breakthrough, but the result of daily disciplines, small, invisible acts repeated over time until they compound into something extraordinary. Yet behind that consistency lies something deeper, emotional resilience. Habits do not exist in isolation. They are built and broken in the emotional landscape of our lives. On good days, habits are easy. But on hard days, stressful days, days filled with doubt or fatigue, that is when the strength of a habit is truly tested. And it is in those moments that many people fall off track, not because the habit was flawed, but because they did not prepare emotionally to uphold it in difficulty. Success is not only about doing the right thing when everything is going well. It is about continuing to do the right thing when nothing seems to be working. In the Shaolin teachings, we train not only the body, but also the mind's response to discomfort, boredom, and adversity. The purpose of this training is not to remove hardship, but to increase our ability to remain steady through it. A person who builds habits without emotional awareness builds them on unstable ground. The slightest storm will shake the foundation, but a person who builds habits alongside emotional discipline creates a structure that is unshakable. Every time you encounter resistance, whether it's the temptation to quit, the pull of distractions, or the weight of your own thoughts, you are given a choice. Do you act according to your emotion in the moment, or do you act according to the intention you set when you were clear and committed? The ability to make that choice is not developed through theory, but through practice. It is developed by facing the discomfort of sticking with your habit even when the reward is not immediate. It is about honoring your word to yourself even when no one else is watching. The essence of Shaolin practice teaches us that growth is not linear. There are moments of progress and moments of pause. There are breakthroughs followed by plateaus. But throughout all these phases, the practice remains the same. Whether we feel inspired or uninspired, strong or tired, the practice continues. This is a sacred principle in building successful habits. Remove your dependence on how you feel. You do not build a strong body only on the days you feel like training. You do not develop mental clarity only when the mind is calm. You grow precisely when you practice despite the fluctuations. To support this process, the environment you create becomes crucial. In the monastery, the environment is not left to chance. Everything is arranged to support clarity and discipline, simplicity in design, consistency in schedule, mindfulness in movement. In the same way, your external space and internal environment must support the habits you wish to build. If your surroundings are filled with distractions, then your focus will be constantly under attack. If your routine is chaotic, your discipline will be inconsistent. This is why simplifying your life is not a weakness. It is a powerful strategy for habit formation. Clarity outside invites clarity inside. Another aspect often overlooked in building habits for success is the role of self-respect. If you consistently break promises to yourself, you train your mind to expect failure. But if you consistently follow through, even on the smallest of commitments, you build a different kind of power. This power is quiet, but it grows with each fulfilled promise. It teaches your mind that you are someone who does what you say. And that belief creates momentum. Even when you face setbacks, even when the pace is slow, you will not be easily defeated, because you trust your ability to return. There will be days when progress feels invisible, days when repetition feels meaningless, days when quitting appears more reasonable than continuing, but this is when the most profound transformation occurs, not when you are applauded, but when you are alone with your routine and you continue anyway. That quiet perseverance, that inner strength, is the true fruit of habit. It turns effort into character. It transforms goals into a way of living. It creates a person who does not wait for the perfect time, but who carries discipline into every moment, regardless of how the moment feels. Success is not a single achievement or a moment of triumph. It is a way of being. It is the result of small, consistent actions, rooted in clarity, nurtured by discipline, and protected by resilience. The habits you choose to build are not just tools for reaching your goals. They are the very structure of the life you are creating. When you align your actions with your values, when you train your mind to stay the course despite emotion or difficulty, and when you turn repetition into ritual, you begin to embody the strength, focus, and purpose needed to succeed. The journey of building habits is not about perfection. It is about becoming the kind of person who honors the process, embraces discomfort, and chooses growth over comfort, one step at a time. This is how success is cultivated, not through force, but through quiet mastery.